Good evening. It's very much a pleasure to be here. I will tell you, it is my first time being out here, and it is very, very overwhelming to come through the gate over here off the 580 and to see this beautiful facility. Bill, I can understand why Solivita needs to maintain its independence and continue its independence. I'm very impressed with this. Skip had an opportunity to talk to all of us, and yes, I'm going to be asking for money. I'll be asking for money for 81 weeks. 81 weeks is the election, okay? That's when the election is. But when there's 1 week to go, I want you to know I was here 80 weeks ago, okay? I intend to get to know you all. But Skip also wanted me to make sure that if you're tired of hearing me speak, please somebody raise their hand. And we'll draw it in for a landing. Give you a little bit of my background. I was born and raised in Lakeland. I've been married for 25 years to the same woman, Cindy. Cindy and I went to high school together. Actually, I met her, first lady, a young lady I met in high school, and she was running for sophomore secretary. And I said, you should run for president. And she said, oh, no, that's a man's job. I can't do that. And I said, no, you run for president. I'll run your campaign. She did, I did, and she won, and we've been campaigning ever since. And it's been rather exciting for us. One time I chaired the Greater Lakeland Young Republicans from 1992 to 1995. I served as chairman of the Polk County Republican Executive Committee. And when I did, we had an opportunity to do something that took us a long time as Republicans to do. It was an opportunity to pound the podium about our principles. And I want to go over those principles with you in just a minute. But it also gave us the opportunity to elect people that were desperate for honest, conservative leadership to a county that had been predominantly Democrat ever since it was created, ever since 1845. And then in 2000, I had a chance to run for and serve in the Florida legislature. Had a very defining opportunity in the legislature because I'm very market-based. I don't believe that government should be in the business of business. And I think that what we have now is that we have government being the savior for everybody, and it's shown us that we can do nothing but reward irresponsible behavior and tax those who are very successful. And I give you an example. In 2007, in 2006, after the hurricanes, I chaired the House Committee on Insurance. In 2006, we saw that we went through some pretty devastating times. For example, 3 hurricanes crisscrossed right here in Polk County. We never thought we would get multiple storms. We knew we might get that 1 in 100-year storm, but we never thought we'd get multiple storms in a season. In 18 months, the state insurance company, which was Citizens Property and Casualty Insurance Company, which was charging at the time the highest rates of anybody because they didn't want the state to compete against the private market, it was $2 billion in debt. And the reinsurance fund, which is the Florida Hurricane Catastrophe Fund, took 12 years since Hurricane Andrew to build up $6 billion of capacity and was $1 billion in debt. You are paying today assessments on your auto, on your home, on your business, on your sureties for bailing out these state-run insurance companies. Now, unfortunately, fortunately, I can say that in 2006, when I chaired the insurance committee, we passed a bill under the direction of then Governor Jeb Bush that was more market-based approach, because I firmly believe that a consumer is going to get their best benefit when they have a business competing for them. And the more people you have competing for you, the better off you're going to be. You're going to get a better product, you're going to get a better service. I give you by way of example the telecommunications industry. When they first came out with the bricks that looked like the military phones back in the late 80s, they were very expensive. Few people had them. The more we sold, the more competition, more regulation, granted. But right now it is cheaper to have a cellular phone than it is to have a landline phone. But if the government were in the business of doing nothing but producing cellular phones, we would still be holding those bricks and would probably be attached with a wire or a line or something. But it was competition. Entrepreneurship is what this country was made of. It's capitalism. So I believe in a market-based approach. Now, in January of 2007, we reconvened for a special session. And we decided to do something with insurance that I thought was just wrong. It was putting the government in more business of insurance. Citizens, which was $2 billion in debt, we expanded. We made them bigger. We made them sell more insurance policies. Now, the state of Florida doesn't have insurance. It doesn't have insurance at all. Insurance is a commodity. It's capital. It's money that's set aside to pay claims. We don't have that. We can barely make our education budgets. We can barely make our public safety budgets. We expanded the Florida Hurricane Catastrophe Fund, the reinsurance fund. It was just things that were moving us in the wrong direction. At the time, I was chairman of one of 7 councils in the House, chairman of the Safety and Security Council. I could not vote for my party's bill. I could not vote for what the governor wanted us to do. because in my opinion, it was contrary to my principles. My principles of free enterprise, my principles of less government, my principles of less taxes, because the assessments you are paying on your policies are taxes. Make no mistake of that. So there were two of us in the House, two of us in the entire 160-member legislature that voted against that bill. As a result of that, I lost my chairmanship, but defined myself as a politician and as an individual. And one of the best things about that was that the next morning the sun came up, my wife still told me to empty the garbage, my dog still wanted to give me a hard time, and my kids still wanted me to give them allowances. But it was an experience that I would love to see all politicians go through. Because when you get up the next morning and you look in the mirror and you know you did what you thought you should do and you did it right, and no matter what happened behind you, when you go home, you can always be sure that you did what you said you were going to do. Now, I want to go to what I consider to be 5 fundamental principles of the Republican Party. 5 fundamental principles that we used to espouse and at one time practiced. And when I was introduced by Pat, and she said, I want to believe in action because I'm here as a politician, I'm here as a candidate, and as much as I want to instill in you with my words your trust, I know I can't get your trust until I prove it to you through my actions. And so that's what I think we need to make sure that every politician, every policyholder out there does, is that they show us through their actions, not through their media, not through what they say, not through what they write, but through what they do. And I think that's where the Republican Party over the last 8 years has taken a serious turn in the wrong direction, because we've deviated from our principles. And the first principle is less taxes. Tax day, Tax Freedom Day is the day that, I thought he was raising his hand there for a second. Oh my God. Just getting going. Tax Freedom Day is the day that the Tax Foundation, which was created in 1937, a nonprofit organization that says this is the last day of the year that you have earned all your money that goes to government. So from January 1 until April 13th this year, every dollar you earned would go to the government. Every day on April 14th, you can start keeping your money. Now, they also said, and I'd love to share this with anybody because I can email it to you, or you can get on taxfoundation.com or .org. They said that based on this new budget, with the $1.5 trillion increase in taxes, Tax Freedom Day is going to be May 29th. So on May 30th, if you got anything left, you'll probably have to borrow it, but you might want to go and have a drink and say, okay, I paid the government from January 1 until May 29th, all its taxes, and I can start keeping my money. The Republican Party has got to show by way of action that we firmly believe in less taxes. One of the ways we do that is we put government in essential government functions, public safety, education, health care for those who cannot take care of themselves. Not bailing out insurance companies, auto industry people. We've got to get government out of the business of business. And the more we're going to tax, the more we're going to provide safety nets, and the more we're going to stifle entrepreneurship and risk takers, which has been so great for this country. The second fundamental principle, and it kind of hitched to the first one, and that's less government. I mean, if we have less taxes, we should be able to have less government. But let me tell you something. When I was elected, in 2001, our first budget was a little over $48 billion in the state of Florida. In 2007, that budget was $72 billion. Now, I don't know how many households here have grown at that exponential rate, but I can bet there weren't many. Government, under Republican control, did not do what it was supposed to do, and that was to reduce the size of government. The third fundamental principle I have, the Republican Party has, is personal responsibility. Personal responsibility, I've analogized to common sense, only because neither one is so common anymore. Personal responsibility would change the way we do everything in this country. It would change the way we bail out companies because we wouldn't. We would hold them responsible for their actions. It would change the way we have parents not allow their kids or not provide the quality education for their kids because they don't want to be responsible for them. It's accountability for your actions. And unless you allow for accountabilities for your actions, you will never change the behavior of that action. So the more we go ahead and incentivize, like we have done in the insurance industry in the state of Florida, the more we subsidize coastal building by allowing for the state to insure those structures instead of private industry, because private industry knows it's too high a risk, and we go below the market with state-run insurance, we incentivize irresponsible behavior, irresponsible development. We incentivize bailouts. We incentivize